When you've got yellow plants, oftentimes gardeners turn to fertilizer. But it's oftentimes a question of how fast does the fertilizer actually take to start seeing results? And that's what we're going to talk about in today's episode. Let's go. So we're in our pepper greenhouse, and as you can see, I've got myself some yellow looking plants. Now, some of our pepper plants look amazing, others look a little bit worse for wear. But I wanted to answer this question because when it comes time to fertilizing plants, oftentimes we look for those cues of like slowing growth or yellow leaves for us to jump in and try to save the plant. When the plant looks nice and green, oftentimes there's really no signs of fertilizer being needed. And so as long as the plant looks healthy, it's often recommended not to fertilize because you can end up either wasting money or burning the plant with over-fertilizing, which can have a lot of negative side effects. And so often as gardeners, we wait for the plant to kind of communicate to us that it needs food. But then the question is, well, how fast after I fertilize should I start seeing results? And so we're going to talk all about the different variables that kind of come into play when you fertilize, because there's a lot of them. Stuff like temperature, watering, organic versus synthetic, as well as the amount of nutrients you're putting on the plant and where you put them on the plant. So there's a lot to unwrap in this episode, but I'm really excited about it because so many of you have this question and I've really never addressed it. So I'm kind of excited. So the first contributing factor to how fast fertilizer is going to react with your plants has to do with temperature. This is by far the largest contributing factor, and why I made it first is because if the temperature isn't right, your plants could need it, but your plants aren't going to uptake it. It's really important we understand that. And how we can look at that is based on what's called a bell curve. Now, a bell curve is basically just a graph that has numbers, and it essentially just shows like peak effectiveness. And so if the x-axis was temperature, right? So you start coldest, you move to warmest. As you start to move to warmer, the uptake increases, the growth increases, right? The plant vigor increases the warmer you get. But then if you get too warm, what happens is it starts to slow down again. And so every plant is going to be different. That's going to be based on the plant's needs. For something warm weather like this pepper, it's going to be very slow. The growth is going to be very slow at around 40, 45, even 55 to 60 degrees. It's going to be very slow growth. So if you fertilize at 45 to 50 degrees, that new growth is not going to have as much vigor. The plant is not going to be encouraged to take up the nutrients as fast, and you're going to see a much slower reaction to the fertilizer. As you get closer to like 70, 75, 80 degrees, you're in that sweet spot. Peak growth, rapid growth. You're going to see much faster results. And then if you get too hot, like if you get 95, 100, 105, it's too hot. The plant is shutting down, it's conserving water, it's not growing, and therefore, if it needed fertilizer and you were to fertilize and it's too hot, nothing's going to happen. It's going to slow down that growth, and it's going to take a whole lot longer to see the results again. And so that is the biggest contributing factor as to how fast a fertilizer is going to take hold. Obviously, like I said, it's different based on each plant, but at peak, when we're talking about peak temperature, about 75 to 80 degrees, it's going to take roughly about a week to a week and a half for a pepper plant to start to show signs of greening up after we fertilized. The second contributing factor to how fast a plant is going to react to your fertilizer has to do with the type of fertilizer you're using. Now, I've got 3 different types of fertilizer here, and they all are going to react differently. Now, if you're using something like a liquid fertilizer that is synthetic, right? Think Miracle-Gro. It might be a liquid already, a liquid concentrate, or it might be like a powder that you add to liquid. But a highly synthetic plant available fertilizer like Miracle-Gro, or in this case, this is just a Bonide liquid plant food. It's a 10-10-10. It's going to react very fast. You're going to get very fast results because it's already all plant available. You're going to get the results you're looking for right away. Now, there are downsides to this that obviously when you're getting the results you're looking for right away, it's going to react very fast and it's going to be gone very fast. It leads to what we call nutrient dependency. And nutrient dependency is basically, as the name would imply, it becomes very dependent on you constantly fertilizing because it is like a spike and then a drop off, a spike and a drop off. There's no slow build and availability of nutrients. And so you got to be careful when using synthetic fertilizers. Obviously we don't because we grow all organically. But when you use synthetics, they're going to be readily available. You're going to see very fast results, and then it's going to drop off. You also have what's called leaching. Because they're water soluble, they're ready to go in the plant right away. You're going to have, anytime you water, water is going to carry with it the nutrients. So you're going to lose nutrients as well. So some things to consider. Now, the second fastest is going to be a hybrid fertilizer. Now, this is intended for organic gardening. This is trifecta. This is what we use on all of our plants. All our pepper plants have gotten trifecta. Even the ones that are yellow got refertilized with trifecta. Now, trifecta contains more slow release as well as fast acting. Now, there are nutrients found in a lot of all-purpose fertilizers. You're going to see stuff that says fast acting. There's fast acting nitrogen, and then there's slow release nitrogen, which we'll talk about in a second. When you apply something that is more of kind of like a hybrid combination of a fast acting and slow release fertilizer, you're going to see middle of the road results. If you applied a synthetic fertilizer in ideal conditions, you should start to see the plants greening up within about 3 to 5 days. It's pretty fast, obviously depending on the plant. If you fertilize with something like a hybrid fertilizer that has fast acting but also slow release, you should start to see those results within about 7 to 10 days. You should start to see the plant starting to react to the nutrients if the conditions are right. Then you're going to talk about something like a slow release. Now, a slow release is something like blood meal. Blood meal is a 12% nitrogen. The problem is it's still in its non-plant available form. It needs to be broken down. And that's really where a lot of gardeners make a mistake, is they use something like a slow release fertilizer when they already see the need for it. And the problem is that this will take about 1 to 2 months to fully break down into its plant available form. And that's broken down by soil microbes in the soil that break it down, degrade it, and then feed it to the plant. And that symbiotic relationship is very organic, but it takes a long time. And that's why I lean more towards something like trifecta, because it already has organic forms, not synthetic, but organic forms of fast acting nitrogen that are already broken down and ready to go for the plant to use, as well as stuff like bone meal and blood meal and stuff that is more of a byproduct that's going to take time for the plant to uptake later. And you just want to make sure, because again, you're talking 3 to 5 days, 7 to 10 days, and like almost up to a month for something like this. You want to make sure you know what you're adding to kind of just set your expectations for how fast it's going to react. And the final contributing factor to how fast a plant is going to react to nutrients being added has to do with watering frequency. You see, water is actually a critical component to a plant uptaking nutrients. If you go back to what I talked about synthetic fertilizers are typically going to be water soluble. And that's because all of the nutrients that the plant takes up have to be some form of water soluble nutrients. That's how it gets up to the top leaves. It starts in the roots, and the roots take it up through the main stem into the veins of the leaf and then into the cells of the leaf. And so it has to be water soluble because that's the only transport mechanism to get it from point A to point B. And so if you are finding that you're not watering very frequently, that is going to be a cause for yellow leaves. And that is often, sometimes even the cause for the plant looking like it needs nutrients when it actually doesn't. If you let your plant go bone dry, the plant can't uptake nutrients and it's going to start turning yellow. But if you're finding that you're watering on a fairly regular basis, you want to make sure that when you fertilize, you also follow up with water, because that's going to help to uptake those nutrients into the plant. Don't apply nutrients and then let the plant go dry for a week or two because you'd already watered prior. Always water in your fertilizer, always. Regardless of the type of method you're going with, always water it in, because that's going to be something that is really going to help the plant green up faster than if you were just to leave it. And so here is proof that plants do in fact react very well to being fertilized very quickly if taken care of in the right way. This is how yellow this pepper plant was last week, believe it or not. Now, I don't like to neglect my plants. I like them to be nice and healthy, but you can see a pretty stark difference between the two. I don't think there's any question that this is yellow and this is green. Now, I do want to remind all of you that if you have leaves that are yellow, you're going to lose them. Old leaves that are yellow will not regreen. Only new growth can turn green again. If the new growth is starting to be yellow, those can green up. Once you have these lower, more developed, mature leaves and they are starting to turn yellow, you might as well just pluck them off. And so if I come in here, you can see, I mean, this very evident. It's very, very evident what fertilizer has done to us in just 1 week's time, using trifecta fertilizer as what we are fertilizing with, just for reference. Temperature is right around 75 to 80 degrees in this greenhouse, which is great for them. And we keep them on a really steady watering schedule. And so I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. This also, I know you guys are gonna ask this, what about phosphorus? What about potassium? Same exact thing applies. There's no difference at all. Everything typically follows that same schedule that I gave you. This was just a good example for something like nitrogen, but I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure you watch out for next episode because we're gonna be comparing organic versus synthetic fertilizers, and you're not gonna wanna miss that either. So as always, I'll catch you guys all in the next episode. Grow bigger. Take care. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider checking this one out. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you so much for your viewership because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. If you haven't subscribed yet, it's free. Consider doing that. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, rain or shine. And if you need any garden tools, supplies, or seeds, check out MIgardener.com. We got you covered. See you guys in the garden. Bye.